Hi, I'm standing up today. Don't make me regret it. Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Carly. Welcome to my channel. We simply don't have time right now. Today, we are talking about menace to society, Queen Bee of the New York Times bestseller list, Colleen Hoover. I've never read a Colleen Hoover book in my life. It's maybe one of the things I'm most proud of. However, so many people in my life have read Colleen Hoover because her books have a chokehold on our culture. And every single one of them is like, you should read this book. You would hate it. I had a friend who, he literally lent me Verity, being like, you need to read this. It's awful. Another friend, she was like, you need to read Heartbones. You would hate it. So I began to do some research recently about what the different kind of Colleen Hoover books are about, because I was like, well, if I'm going to read it, I need to know what I'm getting into. And I was horrified. So today we are doing a deep dive into some of Colleen Hoover's most popular books. I've created a PowerPoint presentation. Yes, TEDx, found dead in a ditch. I shot him. Theodore X. That's what we're doing today. I have named this PowerPoint. I found out what Colleen Hoover books were about, and now I want the surgery that they have in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where you erase memories. Thank you very much. Now, before we begin, don't say anything mean to me. It's not nice and it's not feminist. And if I disagree with you and what you think, that's just between you and me. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to like each other to respect each other, right? So don't say anything mean about this just because my opinion on maybe one of your favorite books is nasty, because I'm going to be a little nasty. Me saying these books are insane is not me saying you're insane. I will say that if you threaten my life, though, over a Colleen Hoover book. You know what I mean? Like, we are all creatures of Mother Earth. And I don't know where that sentence ends, but I think I'm looping around somewhere in the area of I should never be criticized ever. Number 2, Colleen Hoover has a yearly income of around $1 million. She does not need defending. I am going to take the piss out of her books. At the end of the day, she's a published author. At the end of the day, it's another day older. At the end of the day, she is an incredibly popular New York Times bestselling author who's rich. So I'm punching up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm punching up. She doesn't need defending. She's wealthy. She's incredibly successful. There's that. And the final point that I want to make here is that I love women. I'm not making fun of this because these books are traditionally feminine coded. I think if you make fun of these books by being like, women be shopping and women be dumb, that's stupid. You can, however, criticize these books for being truly unhinged pieces of literature. So I just wanted to say that that these are any of your favorite books, absolutely love that for you, girlfriend. At the end of the day, you're reading. You know what I mean? You're enjoying your life. Don't let me making fun of something ruin it for you. I'm a troll. I'm a witch. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of lower than a dog to Colleen Hoover. I'm lower than a speck of dirt. I'm a maggot to her. So I really wouldn't spend too much time thinking about my stupid opinion. What do I know? You know, these books are not for me. I haven't read them. I've just read what they're about online too much. And that's okay. Let's begin. Today, I have selected around 5 or 6, I don't know, I can't count, not a woman in STEM, books written by Colleen Hoover, and I'm going to break down 3 aspects of them. First of all, the insane names. Colleen Hoover exists in a world of kind of like Wattpad-esque fan fiction names. I love it because the thing about fiction, and not a lot of people know this, is that it's all about imagination. You can just make it up. And Colleen Hoover, she took that and she ran with it. And she said, nobody in my books is going to be called like Ryan. Like, nobody in these books, their name is not like Sam, you know? It's like, my name is Emerald. My name is Chrysanthemum. I am Cinnamon Jones, and this is my story. So we're going to unpack some of the most insane names. We're also going to unpack some criminal plot points. I'll give you a general overview of what these books are about. There might be spoilers. If you do want to read these books for the plot, skip over like the section of the book it's in, because I might spoil it for you. I'm not going to break down everything, but you know, if I want to talk about the crimes of these books, I've got to talk about the plot points. Also going to talk about big plot twists that I think are incorrect. Like, I can't explain what would be correct, but they are wrong. In my core, I feel that they are wrong. And finally, I am going to share some of my favorite quotations with you.
But before we get started with today's video, I just want to take a quick break and talk about this week's sponsor, Lelo. I've worked with Lelo a lot before. I think they're an amazing company. I love what they stand for. I love the product, and they're actually coming up on their 20-year anniversary. That's right, it's Lelo's 20 Years of Pleasure. They're not just a leading luxury sex toy brand. They're a self-care movement that transcends gender, race, orientation, and age. Each Lelo toy in their lifetime will generate 15,600 orgasms, meaning over 20 years, do the math, Lelo has made people curl their toes 171.6 billion times. But today we are talking about the Enigma Wave. Look at her. Look at this beautiful color. Look at this. The Enigma Wave brings triple stimulation that caters to both erogenous zones. The insertable tail vibrates and moves, mimicking a finger-like motion, and the sonic waves and gentle pulses stimulate the entire clitoral area. This leads to intense pleasures and satisfying blended orgasms. So if you're seeking out new experiences or just have a desire for exploration, the Enigma Wave, she might be for you. The Enigma Wave has 8 powerful pleasure settings, which allows you to have full control over the entire experience. It also has sensonic technology, which means that without making direct contact, the Enigma Wave combines sonic waves and gentle pulses. This leads to intense pleasure and satisfying orgasms because the silicone has been engineered to absorb sonic waves, which just leads to an entirely new experience. The Enigma Wave also has wave motion technology. It absorbs the vibrations from the head, which basically brings satisfaction to the entire G-spot. Also, if that wasn't enough, this has 3 different motors for optimal pleasure. You know, there's a reason that Lelo's been a market leader in luxury sex toys for 20 years. So if the Enigma Wave seems like something that you'd be interested, head to the link in my description below. Or if you're looking for a little something different, just browse Lelo's website. They've got so many different products. There's truly something for everybody. Thank you so much to Lelo for sponsoring this video. Let's get back into the Colleen Hoover of it all.
We're gonna obviously start with It Ends With Us. I feel like this is her most famous book. We would be remiss to not begin here. This book basically chronicles a woman's experience trying to end the cycle of domestic violence and abuse she faces. Her name is Lily Bloom, and we will get to that. We will get to that. And she grows up witnessing her father abuse her mother. She has a relationship in her childhood and teen years with a person who goes and then serves in the military. Then she begins a relationship with a man in her adult life, and that relationship basically devolves into abuse and domestic abuse, and it kind of shows the slow decline into that and her basically fighting to escape this cycle of abuse that she witnessed as a child and now is experiencing as an adult. I wanted to make a Colleen Hoover video for a long time, specifically on this book, because the chokehold it has on women my age at the airport is a cultural event I feel that we need to study. But because Colleen Hoover has kind of alluded to the fact that this mirrors her own experiences with domestic violence, for a long time I was like, I'm not going to talk about it then. Domestic violence is not something that you should try and profit off of. You should not aim to make monetary gains off of a domestic abuse story by making it kind of frivolous and playful. And then she tried to release a coloring book for this, domestic abuse coloring book. So I feel like it's fine. I'm not going to make fun of the abuse. I'm not insane. I'm not the Joker. But I feel as though if you feel like it's okay to try and release a coloring book about a cycle of abuse, and it's not like a workbook, it's just like color the abuse, I think it's fine. This book is full of amazing names. Again, like we said before, the main character, her name is Lily Bloom, and she works at a flower shop. It's actually very subtle because flowers bloom and a lily is a flower, so it's actually a very kind of subtle nod to flowers. Her childhood crush who went to go serve in the army, and guys, just give a moment. Just give a moment for our boys. You know what I mean? Let's just have a moment of silence for our boys. His name is Atlas Corrigan. Here's what I will say about Colleen Hoover. Every single first name is insane. They're crazy. But the last names kind of work for me. Like Atlas, if somebody was like, my name is Atlas, I'd be like, you're a f***ing liar. There's no way. But if you say your name is Atlas Corrigan, now I'm back on track. Kind of sounds real. Lily gets in a long-term relationship as an adult with a neurosurgeon named Ryle Kincaid. Again, Ryle. Was Ryan the name as a whole taken? We will never know. Kincaid, though, now I'm back. Now I'm back. Kincaid is a great last name. So that's kind of the story and the insane names of It Ends With Us. A couple of beautiful moments of plot, and then we'll go into some quotations. The majority of Lily's point of view in this story is told in diary entries. You know, we get our own POV in our mind. We get some diary entries. All right, that's a pretty common narrative device. That doesn't seem too weird to me, except for the fact that all of these diary entries are addressed to George Bush's best friend, Ellen DeGeneres. Queen Ellen. She liked Finding Nemo as a kid and liked Dory and liked Ellen's show. And now all of the diary entries that she's written in her life are addressed to Ellen DeGeneres. I wish I was lying. I wish. There's some truly unhinged sex scenes in... Sorry, my brain is shutting down. Colleen Hoover is she's obviously using the spirits in the spirit world to possess me so that I cannot speak my truth. There's some unhinged sex scenes in Colleen Hoover books. In this book, they kind of do heavy petting on manure, which is cow shit. So she says, and let's get this close because I don't have my glasses on. So when he was wiping that cow shit on me, it was quite possibly the most turned on I have ever been. If I had to read that, you have to. Now we're gonna get into Verity. Verity is the book that I have. It's less kind of like dark romance and more psychological thriller with romance elements. That's something that I feel like I could jive with. Basically, this tells the story of a woman who is an author, and she is hired to ghostwrite the author Verity's next novel. Verity is in a coma, so she's basically supposed to go there and like look at her notes and stuff and write the next book. While she's there, whoa, my voice got high. While she's there, she starts kind of like a romance with Verity's husband. Okay? Notable names, again, Verity Crawford. This name is insane, but it's kind of good. Like, again, I'm like, she's real. She's a real person. The author who is kind of like the main character and she's ghostwriting Verity's book is called Lowen Ashley, and Ashley is kind of spelled in like the Christian way with like an EIGH. You know what I mean. Now, the reason this book was recommended to me as kind of a form of torture is because in this book specifically, there is a lot of blood content. And I have to I just want to ask why. Because this book is not like shelved in the genre of erotica. And generally speaking, I feel like with romances, if they're geared towards young women, generally speaking, they focus on like women receiving pleasure. Like, why are you giving the blood? You know what I mean? Also, it's worth noting, like, these are given to the husband of a woman who is fully comatose, right? So like you're reading blood scenes kind of with in the back of your mind. Miss Verity is in a coma. Like, she is not awake, right? It's kind of a cute backdrop. I congratulated him with the blood. It was the first time I swallowed. That's how happy I was to see him. Maybe he'll remember all the good times, all the blood, all the swallowing, and he'll realize how much more time we'll have to do those things now that we only have one child. Cool. Next, we have November 9. I've become aware of this book because it has the most, like, it's like seemingly the most divisive book in the history of online. If you go on the Goodreads for this book, there are truly, like, with all of these Colleen Hoover books, almost like hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews. Or there are like thousands of 1-star reviews. Like, it feels like a Colleen Hoover book. She's not a 3-star book. It's like either you love the fact that it's like lobotomy literature and you just want to like read a book that's the intellectual equivalent of watching a movie. Like, we've all been there. Absolutely. Or you hate it with a burning passion. And this book online, I remember having a lot of like pushback because people read it and were like, everybody said this book was good. And what the So November 9th is about Fallon O'Neill, Sir Jimmy Fallon O'Neill, and she meets up with this guy named Ben. They meet on November 9th. This is the day of their shared traumas. And when they first meet, they have like a flirty thing, whatever, but Fallon is about to move across the country, and basically they have like every year they meet again on November 9th. Does that make sense? A couple of important kind of things to know. Fallon wanted to be an actress. Absolutely, to be or not to be, that is the question. But she was trapped in a house fire. Her dad's house caught on fire. So her body is burned and she's become insecure because of that. Fair, it's a trauma. And that's going to come back later. So kind of just remember, hold that house fire fact. Hold that in your brain. Like, hold space for that because it is going to come back. I have a lot of quotations for this because there's just so much coverage of it online. And it's amazing. I absolutely love that. The first couple ones basically are from Ben, his point of view. And again, you know what? Colleen Hoover, I'll give it to you. Ben, that's a regular ass name, okay? No notes on that. And he kind of leers and possessively and misogynistically kind of just describes Fallon's body to the readership, which is made up of young women, kind of just like covertly communicating in their brain that you want to be sexual for the male gaze. Your body is what makes you kind of like valuable, right? And like once a man kind of sees that, that's kind of when you can begin to your life can begin on those days. There's also a lot of gross kind of weird things around her scarring because she's scarred on like one half of her body. And like, I think it's fine to kind of explore like, you know, the vanity and like the loss of control of that. I get that. What I do think is insane is to kind of, it's like me before you, Core, being like, if a person is disfigured, if they live a disabled lifestyle, you must wait until a regular person, and we mean and Colleen Hoover, this is me, Colleen Hoover, and I mean regular, you know, because regular is real. Once they kind of see your value beyond the disfigurement, then that's romance. I know, I'm pathetic, but if we're just gonna sit here and stare at each other, it'd be nice if she were showing a little instead of wearing this long-sleeved shirt that leaves everything to the imagination. It's pushing 80 degrees outside. She should be in something a lot less convent-inspired. So true, Ben. I begin to mentally undress her, and not in a sexual way. I'm just curious, really curious, because I can't stop staring at her, and that's not like me. My mother raised me with more tact than this. My eyes fell to the dress first. I have to give myself props for picking that one out. There's just enough showing at her neckline to keep me good and happy. Awesome, and that's why have boobs if not to make men happy? And I'm asking. In this portion, she's kind of talking, because there is like a really horrific scene in this in which, like before, he picks out a dress for her to wear and she's kind of like sobbing because she feels so insecure about showing her scars and stuff like that. And he's mad about this. And he says, it's your own fault people feel uncomfortable looking at you, kind of blaming the victim, emotional manipulation, all the stuff that we love as kind of like voracious romance readers. Because we're now, as soon as, you know, the male love interest kind of blames the female love interest's trauma on her, now I'm rooting for these kids to kind of work it out. I've never wanted to use physical force on a girl before. Feminist king, but I want to push her to the ground and hold her there until that cab drives away. Don't admit that. That's an inside thought. So basically, I gotta put this down. My arm is aching. So remember that fire from before? So basically, the traumas of this story. On November 9th, Ben's mother killed herself, and Ben thinks she herself because her boyfriend broke up with her. And like, I get it, but again, it's like, can we remove a woman's trauma from a man for 1 second? Maybe she was depressed. That'd be sad. Because she herself, Ben assumes that it's because her boyfriend broke up with her. Her boyfriend is Fallon's dad. So Ben thinks, how can I avenge my mother's death? I will light her ex-boyfriend's house on fire. Who's inside the house? Fallon. So he was the reason she got scarring. And he admits that to her at the end. Next book, Ugly Love. This is more of a traditional kind of romance, which is somehow worse because the other ones, again, I'm being a silly little jester girl, but like they're kind of like dark romances. So like the insanity that ensues is on purpose. I think. I think this one is more still of a romance. It follows the main character Tate. Love it. Basically, your name, self-insert, obsessed, as she gets in a relationship with an airline pilot named Miles Archer. He has a mysterious past, and the kind of synopsis of this book is something along the lines of like, it's perfect. They can get in a relationship because he doesn't want love and she doesn't have time for love. So they have just sex. And the only two rules are she can never ask about the past and she can't expect a future. So basically what happens in this book is like they have a relationship. She inevitably kind of falls in love with him quite instantaneously. And he has a mysterious past and that's why he can't fall in love. And it's about this girl, Rachel. And Rachel is his high school sweetheart. Turns out that he and Rachel had a kid named Clayton. Clayton died, and because he died, Rachel blames him for the death and they drifted apart and he's traumatized from this. Couple of things. The way that we find out about this, it's kind of written like a slam poet open mic, you know, like the high school kid that you know that like is obsessed with poetry. It's like kind of like Rupi Kaur core. So every single one of his chapters is kind of written in stilted, very short sentences, kind of like he's the dog from Up. You know what I mean? Like no thoughts, just vibes. So it's like this. And before you say that I am nitpicking quotations, these are on the same page. Rachel is happy. I make Rachel happy. I make Rachel's life better. Her life is better with me in it. Rachel, I whisper. We go to the beach. Rachel wants to sunbathe while she reads. I want to watch Rachel sunbathe while she reads. Okay, Pulitzer. Another thing when they talk about having Clayton, there's this truly horrific quote, and I just have to read it to you. This is two people talking about the baby they've had. Thank you for this baby, she says from the back seat. He's beautiful. I laugh. You're responsible for the beautiful part, Rachel. The only thing he got from me was his balls. She laughs. She laughs hard. It's not that funny. Oh my God, I know, she says. They're so big. We both laugh at our son's big balls. That's like, I actually have no jokes about that. Like, I just actually need you to kind of sit with that sentence. We both laugh at our son's big balls. You kind of just like sit with that. Just, yeah. Finally, we have Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This one is not really talked about and is somehow the most insane because usually it feels like to me in these Colleen Hoover books, the woman is kind of like a blank slate for trauma and the man is a menace to society. There's just a man who is the reincarnation of like the devil and he's there to ruin a woman's life. In this one, it's actually the opposite because feminism wins. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is celebrating in heaven. So our main character in Reminders of Him just got out of prison and she goes to a small town because the son that she had in prison with her high school boyfriend was taken away from her by her boyfriend's parents. The reason they took this son away from her is because she went to prison because she was drunk driving with their son in the passenger seat, got in a car accident. She thought that her boyfriend, their son, was dead. So she fled the scene of the crime. I'm not over yet. He wasn't dead. He was alive for another 6 hours. So if she called the ambulance, she could have saved him. Because of that, they took her baby away from her because it was their son's, whatever. They were hurting, whatever. And now she's returned to this town to try and win her son back. Or it's her daughter. I just ruined that whole take. Keep it in, because here's the thing, there's no such things as mistakes, it's just happy accidents. So that whole thing I said before, but her daughter got taken away from her. Gender's a spectrum, by the way. Jesus. While she's there, she goes to a bookstore where she first met her dead boyfriend that she killed drunk driving. In the bookstore, it's now been turned into a bar and it's run by her boyfriend's best friend, I guess from childhood, who he doesn't know it's her, Ledger Ward. Okay? And that's the romance between them. Sparks fly, baby. There's only one kind of quotation I really want to talk about from this one because I feel like the drunk driving redemption arc is already enough of an insane thing. I'm not saying that like people can't be redeemed from their past mistakes. It is a choice to kind of make a drunk driver a victim in your romance novel. So her daughter's name is Diem, like Carpe Diem. And Ledger helps out with taking care of this daughter. And he says, I've spent the last couple of years trying to be a good role model for Diem. So I've read a few books on feminism. Absolute king. That's everything. Okay. Ow. That's everything. Is that crazy? Thank you so much for watching. All of my links, my social media, all of that stuff will be in the description below. Thank you so much to Lelo for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you soon. Bye.